6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time for the news. We start our news with the headlines. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi presides over a meeting and asserts the state's full support to the information technology and communication sector. Egypt reiterates full rejection to the forced deportation of Palestinians and calls on all countries not to take part in this heinous crime. Welcome back. The news in detail. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi asserted the state's full support to the information technology and the communication sector, stressing the importance of launching initiatives and establishing specialized centers to prepare qualified cadres. The president instructed to put clear strategy to implement artificial intelligence alongside with research and development. The head of state received a detailed report on the plan to develop the communication networks to offer a better service for citizens nationwide. This came as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi have presided over a meeting with Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli, Minister of Interior Mahmoud Tawfiq, and Dr. Amr Talat, Minister of Communication and Information Technology, and other ministers. Egypt reiterated full rejection to the forced deportation of Palestinians and called on all countries not to take part in this heinous crime. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry said Egypt have been following up with great concern reports of Israeli consultations with some countries to accept the deportation of Palestinians to their lands, with an Israeli plan to empty Palestinian lands in order to occupy them and liquidate the Palestinian question. The statement said Egypt renews a clear-cut rejection to any Israeli plans to deport the Palestinian people away from their historical lands, either in Gaza or the West Bank, under any excuses, whether willingly through starvation or land confiscation or settlement activities that aim to make life impossible for Palestinians. It said Egypt will not accept deportation nor take part in it, regarding it a historical injustice without moral or legal justification. The 16th convoy of humanitarian and relief aid trucks within Zad al-Azza convoy have resumed entry into Gaza Strip through the subsidiary gate of Rafah land port, arriving to Karm Busalim, crossing southeast of the Strip. The Egyptian Red Crescent said it sent about 2,400 tons of food aid, including more than 100 tons medical supplies, in 16th convoy of Zad al-Azza. The trucks are inspected by the occupation forces before entering to the Palestinians in the Strip. Gaza Civil Defense Agency said that Israeli attacks killed at least 40 Palestinian civilians as the Israeli occupation military hinted at an approaching call to push civilians from Gaza City ahead of a new offensive. The latest toll comes more than a week after Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to occupy the Palestinian territory's largest city following 22 months of war that have created dire humanitarian conditions. Earlier, Gaza Civil Defense spokesman Mahmoud Bassal said that conditions in Gaza City's Zaytun neighborhood were rapidly deteriorating, with residents having little to no access to food and water amid heavy Israeli bombardment. The spokesman added that about 50,000 Palestinians were estimated to be in that area of Gaza City, the majority of whom are without food or water and lacking the basic necessities of life. According to Gaza Health Ministry, Israel's offensive have killed more than 61,897 Palestinians since October 2023. Hamas said that Israel's plans to relocate residents from Gaza City constitutes a new wave of genocide and displacement of hundreds of thousands of residents in the area. The group said that the planned deployment of tents and other shelter equipment by Israel into southern Gaza was a blatant deception. The Israeli military have said it is preparing to provide tents and other equipment starting from Sunday ahead of its plan to relocate residents from combat zones to the south of the enclave to ensure their safety. Hamas said in a statement that the deployment of tents under the genus of humanitarian purposes is intended to cover up a brutal crime that occupation forces prepare to execute. Israeli occupation troops arrested today at least 23 Palestinians in the West Bank. In another development, scores of Israeli settlers stormed into Al-Aqsa Mosque compound under heavy occupation police protection. They broke into the mosque in groups conducting provocative tours and rituals. The Israeli military said it have targeted an energy infrastructure site that was used by Houthis south of the Yemeni capital Sana'a early today, with Israeli media saying the Haziz post a video call today for the so-called coalition of willing to discuss steps towards ending the war in Ukraine. Details in the following report.
Leaders of France, Germany and Britain will host a video call Sunday for their so-called coalition of the willing to discuss steps towards ending the war in Ukraine, after Donald Trump dropped his push for a ceasefire after his Alaska summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Securing a ceasefire in Ukraine more than 3 years after Russia's military operation have been one of the US president's core demands before this summit, to which Ukraine and its European allies were not invited. However, after a meeting that yielded no clear breakthrough, Trump ruled out an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine, a move that would appear to favor Putin, who has long argued for negotiations on a final peace deal. Ukraine and its European allies have criticized it as a way to buy time and press Russia's battlefield advances. Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and European leaders on his flight back from Alaska to Washington, saying afterward that it was determined by all that the best way to end the horrific war between Russia and Ukraine is to go directly to a peace agreement which would end the war. Trump expressed support during his call with Zelensky and European leaders for a proposal by Putin to take full control of two largely Russian-held Ukrainian regions in exchange for freezing the front line in two others. On his part, Zelensky said Russia refusing to accept a ceasefire was complicating efforts to end Moscow's more than 3-year-long conflict.
A railway employee was injured and a power line damaged by Ukrainian drone attack at a station in Russia's Vorozhny region. The regional governor made a statement on Sunday. The Russian Defense Ministry said on the Telegram messaging application that 9 drones were downed over the Voronezh. Flooding in the northwest Pakistani district have killed at least 220 people as rescuers pulled 63 more bodies overnight from homes flattened by flash floods and landslides, with forecasts of more rain in the coming days. Spokesman for the emergency services said that hundreds of rescue workers are still searching for survivors in Banner, one of several places where torrential rains and cloudbursts caused massive flooding on Friday. Dozens of homes were swept away. At least 10 people died in the flash flood in northern China, with 2 others still missing as the East Asian monsoon countries to unleash atmospheric chaos across the world's second largest economy. The banks of the river running through the grasslands of Inner Mongolia burst at around 10 p.m., washing away 13 people camping on the outskirts of the city of by Noor. China has suffered weeks of extreme weather since July, battered by heavier than usual downpour, with the monsoon stalling over its north and south. Moving to the economy news, as Executive President of the General Authority for Investment and Free Zones, Hossam Hiba, said that the production of the new public free zones will be directed from ports to help meet government's largest of $140 billion annual exports by 2030. Gafi, Executive President, was speaking as he chaired an expanded meeting with investors at the Egyptian public free zones. During the meeting, Hossam Hiba agreed with the participants to form a work group from representatives of all industrial sectors to develop and upgrade the mechanism of work at public free zones and to offer suggestions to promote fair investment practices and support green transition goals. The Cabinet Information and Decision-Making Support Center said that Egypt is exerting huge efforts in the field of entrepreneurial activities which depend on technology. The center noted that part of the state efforts was the establishment of the Entrepreneur and Innovation Center in 2010 with the aim to empower Egyptian youths and transform the innovative ideas into reality. It also aims at supporting new ideas regarding the upgrade of communications and information technology industry in Egypt. Cryptocurrency markets stabilized after Bitcoin hit a record high during Asian trading, surpassing $124,000, driven by the favorable U.S. legislation and a rise in U.S. equities. The cryptocurrency rose above its previous July record, briefly exceeding $124,500 before retreating. Bitcoin's value has recently soared, fueled by U.S. regulatory changes under U.S. President Donald Trump, a strong backer of the crypto sector. In the sports news, Egyptian Premier League second round have resumed on Saturday night with 3 matches. The first game saw Zamalek held to a goalless draw with our contractors at Cairo International Stadium. The White Knights are now in the 3rd spot of the Premier League table with 4 points, while our contractors are in the 17th with 1 point. Another game saw NP beat their guests Wadi Digla 1-0 to grab the 3 points of the game and move to the 6th spot with 4 points. Wadi Digla have only 1 point and occupy the 15th place. The last game of the day saw a goalless draw between Ghazl Al Mahalla and Samoha. Both teams have 2 points and occupy the 11th and 12th spot in the league table. Champions Bayern Munich beat Stuttgart 2-1 and lift the German Super Cup thanks to goals from Harry Kane. And while with this we come to the end of the news bulletin. My name is Amal Mukhtar. Thank you for watching.